There is a version of your life that God has always seen. A version where you walk lighter, where you are not carrying the weight of other people's opinions, of your own fears, of the habits that keep pulling you back into who you used to be. I know that version exists because I've caught glimpses of it, in quiet moments, in prayer, in the rare mornings when everything felt still, and I could sense, just for a second, that God was not disappointed in me, that He was actually building something. But getting there required something I was not prepared for. It required letting go, not of faith, not of God, but of the things I was holding so tightly that my hands had no room left to receive what He had for me. These are the 5 things I had to release to walk with God. And I want to be honest with you, some of them still hurt to talk about.
The first thing I had to let go of was not a habit or a fear. It was people. There are people in our lives who do not lead us toward God, not because they are evil, most of them are not, but because the version of yourself they need you to be is not the version God is calling you to become. I had people around me who felt comfortable with my limitations, who laughed at my old self, who subtly, or not so subtly, made me feel like changing was a kind of betrayal. And I stayed for too long, because letting go of people feels like losing them, and losing people feels like failure. But here's what I learned. God does not ask you to hate anyone. He asks you to love yourself enough to choose the room that makes you grow. Proverbs 13:20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble." This is not judgment, this is architecture. The people around you are building something inside of you, whether you realize it or not. Letting go of toxic people was the first door, and it was the heaviest one to open.
The second thing is quieter. You can't always see it, but it is always there. The need for people to approve of who you are. I spent years shaping myself around what others expected, what my family expected, what my friends expected, what the version of success that the world sells us every day expected. And somewhere in all that performing, I lost the thread back to who I actually was. The need for approval is a kind of idol. It places the opinion of people above the voice of God. And the voice of God, quiet, still, persistent, gets harder and harder to hear when you're always listening for applause. Galatians 1:10 asks it plainly, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God?" When I finally stopped needing everyone to understand my faith, my choices, my direction, something in me exhaled. For the first time in years, I felt like I could walk in a straight line, because I was finally walking toward one voice, and that voice was not afraid of disappointing anyone.
The third thing is the one that held me longest. Fear. Not a single fear, a whole architecture of fears. Fear of failure, fear of the future, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear that God was watching and finding me lacking. The Bible says, "Do not be afraid," more than 365 times, one for every day of the year. I used to read that and feel comforted. Then I started to wonder, why does it need to be said that many times? And then I understood. Because we forget. Every single day. We forget. Fear is not the opposite of faith. Fear is the test of it. I realized something that changed everything for me. Everything I cannot control is exactly where God is actively working. The uncertainty that was keeping me paralyzed, that was not absence. That was territory. God does not work in the things you have already figured out. He works in the gaps, in the unknowns, in the silences between your plans. Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. Letting go of fear did not mean pretending everything was fine. It meant choosing to believe that what I could not see, God already had in his hands. And that, slowly, was enough.
This one is harder to talk about, and maybe that is exactly why it needs to be said. Vices are not simply bad habits. They are conversations you have with the part of yourself that does not yet believe you deserve more. I had mine. I still wrestle with some of them. And I am not going to stand here and tell you that faith makes them disappear overnight, because it did not for me. But here is what faith did. It changed what I wanted. Every vice I had was filling a space, numbing something, replacing something. When I got closer to God, those spaces started to feel different, not empty but occupied by something I could not fully name but could undeniably feel. The Apostle Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 6:12, "Everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but I will not be mastered by anything." I will not be mastered by anything. That phrase became a prayer for me, not a rule, a declaration. Every time I felt the pull of the old patterns, I would remember, I am not a slave to this. I am in the process of becoming free. Letting go of vices is not about willpower. It is about wanting God more than you want the comfort of staying the same. And that wanting grows, slowly, with time, and with grace.
The last thing I had to let go of was the one I protected the longest. Myself. The old version. The person who had survived by being a certain way, who had built walls and habits and a whole identity around what life had taught him, who was not bad, but who was not yet who God intended. There is a grief in letting go of who you used to be, even when that person caused you pain, even when that identity kept you small, because it was yours. And the unknown, even when it promises something better, is still the unknown. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Transformed, not improved, not adjusted, transformed. What God is building in us is not a better version of who we were, it is something new. And new things require space, and space requires release. I think about the wanderer often, this figure that walks without knowing exactly where the road leads. He is not lost, he is in the process. And the process asks one thing of him again and again: let go. Take one more step. Let go again.
If you are holding something right now, a person, a fear, a habit, a version of yourself you are not sure you are ready to release, I want you to know something. God is not asking you to let go because He is taking something from you. He is asking you to let go because He needs both of your hands free to receive what comes next. You do not have to release everything today. The path is long, and grace is patient. But maybe, today, you take one step. I am still walking, and I am grateful for every single thing I had to leave behind, because every door I let close opened another one toward Him. Walk on, wanderer.